You're listening to the Clutter Fairy Weekly, a weekly webcast and podcast brought to you by the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas. If you'd like to participate in one of our live webcasts, please visit cfhou.com/weekly. You'll find a calendar of upcoming webcasts, as well as instructions for joining the Zoom meeting via the app or by phone. We'd love to see you. That URL again is cfhou.com/weekly. Now here's the weekly episode. Enjoy.
Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for June 2nd, 2026. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your questions and comments via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we are streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's weekly tittle, which was called Make a Multifunction Space Work. The assignment was to improve the usefulness of a multifunction space in your home, or to work toward making a current space more effectively multifunctional. Let's hear from our participants in Facebook and on Zoom who tried our multifunction tittle this week. Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer CM offered advice that felt relevant to this conversation. CM was talking about another function that many of us might need to prepare one of our rooms to serve someday. CM writes, recovery rooms. Bedrooms, studies, and even living rooms might quickly have to be converted into a recovery room for recovery from surgery or illness. To keep things within easy reach of a patient, a rolling cart will hold medical supplies, phones, laptops, iPads, water bottles, books, etc. And the handles of a rolling cart can provide something for the patient to hold on to use as a walker.
This is a significant category that I hadn't thought of when we first discussed this. It's true that sometimes people need a convalescent home after a surgery or major illness. And rooms that need to be temporarily rearranged to receive a hospital bed or some other temporary bed, or they just need to be at home and on the couch for a while. I remember a client whose son got into a boating accident and he had leg injuries that required major stitching and supplemental wound care. And he spent several weeks recovering on the couch, taking tons of meds and attached to wound management devices that were keeping the wound closed. It was some kind of a vacuum system that they inserted in the injury, and then it sucked the stuff together somehow.
Oh my.
It was a contraption I'd never seen before. But his movements were restricted because of it, and he needed continuous care during that time. And needless to say, the living room was rearranged to accommodate him spending the day on the couch and taking all his meals and being treated there. And that living room had many non-normal functions happening in there for those weeks. And so thanks for the reminder of another way that rooms become multifunctional, even temporarily. I mean, that's like a supercharged version of a guest shows up in the house and you have to rearrange the room for that. But doing it for a medical purpose, it has the same temporariness to it. But it is some major rearranging when somebody comes home and is recovering from illness. Thanks for sharing that one.
Here's a report from Jacqueline. It's a little long, but
okay.
Jacqueline says, this weekend we sold a set of 3 boat docking bumpers that we found when we were cleaning out the garage. We don't have a boat, so I have no idea where they came from, but they are gone now.
That's so funny. Well, good job. I'm glad you found them and glad they're out of there. Somebody needed those things. They didn't need to be living in your garage. That's awesome.
She goes on to say, a few weeks ago, the conversation was about stuff related to a hobby you no longer do. From about 2005 to 2015, I was very involved in geocaching, which is a GPS treasure hunt game.
Mm-hmm.
An offshoot of the game is something called geocoins, which are metal tokens similar to military challenge coins that are collectible items to many geocachers. People buy, sell, and trade them with other players. I was also involved in designing several of them, and I have a large collection of them. I
Cool.
started looking through them, and I think I am ready to downsize the collection a bit. I'm
So
not
you can take some of them out.
I'm not getting rid of everything. Some coins are very sentimental, but I have a larger collection that I'm able to easily display and enjoy.
And a bunch of fellow geocachers who will find it fascinating to have some of the stuff that you've been holding for 10 years or 15 years and have it go back out into the universe, and they'll be able to find something they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So that's very, I think that's a great pivot to make after a long time of being in a hobby. Like you got it as big as you wanted it, and now you can be more critical about the ones that you're keeping and let and release some that are not as important to you. And I can see if you help design the coins that you help design are certainly ones you might want to keep more than some other ones that you gathered along the way. And so there's gradations in that collection where you can say these are more important to me than other ones. And Frankie is back, so my apologies if he causes problems on the show.
Um,
Frankie.
Jacqueline always gives us great tittle reports, and there a couple of things jumped out at me about this statement. One, um, we don't have a boat, so I have no idea where they came from. So, I
Right.
think this is a reminder to all of us that if you have a place where you don't have a clear picture of what's in that space, there could be all kinds of surprises waiting for you.
Right. And it is definitely a project worth doing because there's definitely going to be things that need to go.
And then the other one I liked was I have a larger collection that I'm able to easily display and enjoy. That's a that's a really
Critical statement.
great statement of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Admit the first step is admitting you have a problem. I have a larger
Right.
collection that I'm able to easily display and enjoy. And
Right.
and that's what where when we talk about collections, that's usually where we want people to start from is, recognize that you have more than you can enjoy and more than you can show off.
Yeah. 100%. And and having them, there's some satisfaction in having them in a box in the corner that you don't play with or look at. You know it's there, right? And so somehow that feels good, but it also feels like it diminishes the value of the collection if you aren't able to look at it, interact with it, show it off to people. And the idea of having a set of things out for display or on the wall or however you would show those, so that it can reflect your 10-year investment in doing this for fun, and that you had at a decade of your life where this was something that you were into all the time. And I mean, it was a significant part of your life. And so having a collection on display that shows that part of your life, I think is a perfectly reasonable thing to want and have. And not having a hidden section of that collection that's just, sitting there in a box in a corner, you don't really need that part to show how much a part of your life it was. So it sounds like you're making a mental shift there, and you're starting to pivot a little bit, and that's good. Good for you.
Uh, Connie offered another example of when you might need a recovery room. Say if one partner has a bad cold and you don't want to catch it, one moves
Hmm.
to the guest bed, and
Yeah,
so
the don't get me down, don't take me down with your toxic germs move,
right.
right? Yeah, we've all done that for sure. That's exactly right.
JB reports yesterday finally had dryer duct thoroughly cleaned out. Duct Doctor USA, they did a great job.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Now I can tackle my laundry backlog without the campfire smell. Laundry isn't meant to be a high stakes game of risk.
No, no, no. It's not a roll the dice and see if the house catches on fire kind of event. You just want to be able
Right.
to go do the laundry and walk away. So good for you. I'm glad you did that.
All right, let's move on to our main topics for today. A viewer asked, what's the best way to declutter large areas like attics and basements? A vast decluttered space can shut us down before we even get started, but there are simple strategies you can implement to tame the beast. Today, we're going to outline a flexible plan for decluttering a large space and explore other short topics suggested by our audience. We'll get to the large spaces second. We're going to start with another question. Um, This one came from Yvonne, audience member Yvonne, who writes, I can declutter easily enough, but I find that I'm always in a cycle of buying new because there are always items that seem like they will be better able to serve my current lifestyle. I'm also
The
way,
trick of marketing.
right? I'm also way too hooked on the dopamine rush of getting new items. Decluttering and downsizing doesn't stick if you are constantly buying new. How about a
Hmm.
discussion of ways to beat the dopamine rush and how to get back to being satisfied with what we already have? And then another survey respondent, Tiffany, asked a very closely related question. How do I convince myself that shopping is no longer necessary unless the item is a strict need? We get to a point in life where we really need to downsize so that our loved ones do not have to shoulder the burden of going through a hoard. Tiffany expressed a concern that her accumulation will always outpace all decluttering efforts unless a true mental shift is achieved.
Shopping is truly a sport for many of us. It's fun and exciting, and we definitely get thrilled by buying something new. But you're all here because you've either already learned or you still need to learn that this kind of entertainment has some seriously detrimental side effects in your living space. Two different people ask the same question in a slightly different way. And here's my way of asking. How do we decide that shopping just for fun is not a great hobby and find another way? We will always need to shop, but shopping for what we actually need is a very different thing than shopping for the next fun, glittery thing in the store. We need to severely restrict shopping as entertainment and stick to shopping for current needs. And then we need to find another hobby to spend our time and attention on. Something else that takes our time and attention and gives us a thrill, but doesn't add stuff to the house. Dancing lessons, playing an instrument, walking in nature, doing a craft. Although this is kind of a slippery slope around buying supplies, but doing a craft does occupy your mind in a way that is not about shopping while you're doing it. Learn to cook. It's all about flexing your mind in a satisfying way so that you get an emotional reward from a new source and not just from shopping. Shopping's anonymous, it's easy to do, and it happens leisurely. It's exactly that ease of it that makes it so damaging long term. Pursuing another avenue of interest will require some more effort, and maybe it means you have to interact with strangers on purpose, which some of us don't like to do. But you can find another way to spike your dopamine and to increase your happiness without bringing a bunch of stuff home with you and without leaving a burden for your kids to manage when you're gone. Tiffany is absolutely correct when she says she's concerned that her accumulation will always outpace all decluttering efforts until a true mental shift is achieved. And a true mental shift is necessary to stop unneeded shopping and accumulating more than you can use in a lifetime. The dopamine hits now are not worth the end of life downsizing and cleanup project that is coming your way without any change to this pattern. So, no, you don't have to be unhappy, but you do need to figure out another way to feel happy besides shopping for fun. There are literally thousands of ways people interact, get creative, and pursue entertainment. Some are very active, some are very passive, and some are in between. Ask your friends, ask people that you just met what they do for fun. Do research, gather data, and start trying something else in place of shopping. Find something that speaks to you and do it instead. Keep trying things until something sticks for you. And when you waver, remember that shopping now will just make your downsizing project when you're 70 infinitely harder to do. And no one wants that. And some of you are already at that stage where now you are cleaning out the collection, the lifetime collection of shopping, because you're going to downsize because you're got to move to a new smaller place and it's not you're not loving it and you're not and you're finding it a big burden. So speak up and share with your fellow travelers who have not reached the stage of life that you're in that it's way harder to deal with it all at the end than it is to try to figure out another way besides shopping for fun.
Well, and I think we can also generalize your answer to other other forms of entertainment, other hobbies, other habits and routines that in which accumulation tends to outpace disposition.
Mm,
And you mentioned crafts. That's a biggie, and that's a shopping issue specifically. But I was also thinking like book buying. Well, it's again another form of shopping. Magazines were one that comes to
hmm
mind, and snipping recipes. Um, what are some more?
That's a big one because people that like recipes and like cooking read recipes for entertainment in a way that I don't understand. Like you guys love reading recipes.
Right, right.
And so you clip things that are interesting and fun, but if all you're doing is reading and clipping and you're not actually going to use some of them, then you're sort of creating your own
You're building your clutter piles.
right. You're making your own perfect storm of paper that you have to deal with on the back end.
Yeah, and so the mental shift that Tiffany mentions for the recipe clipper might be to recognize I enjoy reading recipes. I enjoy finding interesting recipes. I don't cook at anything like the pace at which I search for and read recipes. So maybe
Right?
I need, the mental shift is I need to establish a different standard for what I bother to keep.
Yes.
Do I see myself, is this something I would make in the next 3 months?
Because it is the presumption, right? If you're reading a recipe, the presumption is you're going to try it.
Right.
But maybe
Yeah.
that is absolutely not true. Maybe it's just that you find it fascinating to read them and that's the fun part for you, not the actual cooking. And
Right.
so acknowledging that and figuring out a way to collect without drowning
Well,
when
and that
you're not going to go to the execution part of that recipe.
and in that case, it might be okay if you're determined to keep clipping them at the present rate, then you need a system that absorbs them as quickly as you clip them.
Yes, 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 yes.
And that may
Absolutely.
mean binder after binder after binder that you'll have to keep making room for on your shelves
Mm-hmm.
if that's what you're determined to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's share some comments before we go on.
Yeah, there's a lot popping by. I can see.
Yeah, let's see. Connie suggests for the shopping problem, put things in a cart online but never go to pay.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Fake shopping. I
You can
like the idea of pretend shopping.
you can also enjoy all the follow-up emails offering you a better deal or trying to find out why you left something unpurchased in your cart.
Right?
Um,
That's true.
M said dance lessons for me involved acquiring tights, two pairs of shoes, a cane and a hat, and a portable floor. After 10 years of recitals, there were 10 programs and 10 really cool and rather expensive costumes.
Right? But you know what? 10 costumes, that's not bad. That's not a huge accumulation. I think, that's something that you can be.
Right.
That's a less impactful pile of things to deal with than I went shopping every day for 17 years and brought something home from a store. So, good job.
Anya says, I've learned the word right sizing and I love it.
Mm. It is more positive, isn't it? It's more reflective. Like we're dialing it down to what actually fits and what I'm comfortable living in. It's a good spin.
Pat from Michigan suggests, when shopping or doing housework, consider your future self. How will I feel after?
See, nobody does that. That's a great idea. It's a perfect perspective. One of the questions you should ask yourself while you're staring at the item in the store. How will I feel about this 5 years from now?
Uh,
Good question.
Ginger says, we flip the script on shopping. We plan purchases. At the start of each year, we assess our needs and purchase what we need to replace worn items or to fill gaps in our needs. This cuts back on impulse buys. We've
Yeah,
discovered we rarely buy everything we think we need, or it gets listed the next year if we still need it.
there you go. It is possible to, pause and say no to the thrill of shopping and not take it home right that minute. And planning, making the plan about stuff to buy, that's a slightly more elevated version of I'm making a shopping list, right? But if you're making a plan around the things that you want to bring home, then you can be much more deliberate about it. That's good.
Pat suggests for recipes, I take a digital photo or slash screenshot. And for recipe accumulators, recipe management apps can be helpful too.
Hmm.
You're shifting your paper clutter to digital clutter, but at
But
least
it's
it's
all in
not.
an identified space.
Well, and your digital clutter will probably never, the pile will never get so tall that it topples over and crushes you.
True that. You don't have issues walking around a digital pile of recipes, right?
Here's a
That's so true.
great suggestion from Terry, who says, I think a key element is to immediately integrate purchases into my household. Complete the cycle, which includes
Hmm.
putting it away. Then, if you can't integrate it, you still have time to return it if it's returnable, or donate it so someone else can use it.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot. Like the fun part is the shopping and acquiring, and then it comes home in a bag and the bag gets put in the corner. And if you don't actually then put it into the house, it just becomes a bag that I have to empty later when you have me come to your house. And so over the years, I have unwound a lot of shopping bags with stuff that's like, oh, I forgot I bought that. Yeah, because it wasn't about the buy-in. It was about the thrill of the moment. And here we are trying to find space for it now.
Suzanne
Absolutely.
Suzanne says, I think I maybe just want to eat what the recipe I clip is for. No magic.
That's a fair point. Like you read it and it sounds like it would taste so, so
That
good.
sounds very tasty.
I get that. I do. Like that's, especially if you're ready for lunch, right?
Right?
Yeah, I get it.
Let's see. Yeah, Jacqueline kind of echoed what I said. If you put something in the cart and don't check out, the store will spam you with emails reminding you about your cart.
Amazon's very good about that, right? And
Yeah.
I just take a great delight. I have to tell you, I take great delight in going, ha 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 ha, Amazon. Ha ha ha. I'm not gonna get it after all. Too bad for you.
M says, I was shopping with my mother and saw something that was perfect for her. She agreed and stood there a long time looking at it. She didn't buy it. Why? She said, I don't have a place for it.
See, that's a woman that's learned when it comes home in a bag, I got to put it somewhere. And she sat there and did the process in her head about where it would go. That's good. That's very good.
Ginger said there was that impulse buy of baby goat pajamas in the Holstein cow pattern. My brother insisted we needed a mini cow. He spammed me with photos of them. I sent him a pic to confirm we had one now and he could stop.
That's hilarious. Here's my cow. It's little pajamas. That's funny. Hey, whatever you have to do to beat back somebody trying to talk you into buying more.
Right.
That's
Um,
good.
Christine from Michigan says, one thing I say to myself while out shopping is, will I want to deal with returning this if I decide I don't want it? I have put many a thing back.
Because returning is so much more irritating than, the reverse process of trading that good back for your cash is a very annoying process. And it's funny, my little sister, like she will return stuff like nobody's business. She brings stuff home for the kids, for the husband. They don't like it, it goes back. Like she wants her money back. If it's not going to get used, if it's not accepted, she turns it back into money. She's very money motivated. It's like, no, no, I'm not keeping this just because I'm too lazy to go to the store.
Good for her.
She makes it happen.
Okay,
I hate doing them.
let's move on.
Okay.
We promised to talk about large spaces.
Mm.
Survey respondent AJ asked, what is the best way to declutter large areas like attics and basements?
So large areas that are typically straight up storage rooms are always painful. Once you designate a room as a place to put things, then you get to putting and the space fills up really fast. It's the easiest decision in the world to say, I can just put it in the attic. I can just put it in the garage. I'll just put it in the basement. Of course, we don't say the rest of that sentence, which is where it will die a slow and natural death over time. We just say, I can put it in there. And we walk away and it's out of our face and we didn't have to make a decision and we don't have to think about it. The good thing about these project spaces is that they're not active use rooms. And so you can start and stop many times without disrupting your home's daily functions. And that means you can work at whatever pace you can manage and start and stop often, making it a much less of a full day burden. Like you don't have to commit to, I'm going in the basement for the day. You can go in for a couple of hours and come back out again. Another good thing is that the contents of these storage rooms are full of not often used or never used items, and the contents are usually well marinated because of that. So, going through it, looking to declutter and organize is much easier than other rooms that have more active contents in them. So, it's a ripe space for we got rid of this because we didn't want to face the decision to release it, but there's a lot of things that need to be released in these spaces.
I think the word you're tiptoeing around saying is trash.
I
Attic and basement projects, big storage spaces
have lots of
will
trash.
have a lot of trash. They may be things that weren't trash when they went in there, but have turned to trash in the conditions
Ensuing
in
years
the
that they've been
hot
in
or
there,
dry or damp
or cold,
condition.
or yeah,
Right.
all that, 100%. The bad side of around these big spaces is that there's relocation of many things is a lot of physical labor. So the spaces are large, they're full of a lot of stuff, and it's going to take a lot of physical labor to move it around. Whether you're donating something, recycling and trashing stuff, or just putting it in the right room where it should be. There will likely be a lot of awkward things to process that got shoved in these storage areas precisely because they were awkward in shape and weight and so hard to deal with. So these kinds of spaces are where all the weird things get parked that are a hassle to manage and move around. And you're going to have to step up and manage and move them around. So we came up with some short bullet points around uh, what project steps you need to do to work in these kind of large spaces. And the first one is that you should break it up into smaller projects. And the example that I have is focusing on things that need to be disposed in special ways, like chemicals that have to go for special recycling, or furniture that needs arrangements to donate it, or large items that need to be hauled out to the curb for heavy trash. So you can pick on those. You can subdivide this large space into, I'm going to pull the chemicals out today. I'm going to deal with getting these pieces of furniture handled in whatever way. I'm going to get help to drag this thing to the curb for heavy trash pickup. And so that's one of the ways that you can start moving in that space and subtracting things that are require special handling. You also can clear a space to work first, like as a place to start. If it's really jammed up and full of things, then there's likely not a work surface that you can access while you're there. So focusing on clearing that space, um, try to find an area that can be quickly cleared so you can set up a table and give you space to work on sorting, etc. So carve out a corner, find the place that you can dismantle with the least amount of work. Maybe it's just that it's easy to move the things out of the way so you can clear a space for a table and a chair, perhaps, and give yourself a work surface. And you also want to think about clearing a pathway. So if the large space is overfull, then walking through it might be a problem. I mean, we've all been in the garage that's filled to the gills on every possible area. And how are you going to walk through it, right? You want to make sure that you can maneuver safely in that space without getting hurt and without having to, like, you don't want to be climbing over stuff, and you don't want to
Right.
be squeezing around things that might fall down, and you want that to be easier for you to navigate. So it's the equivalent of when you go in your closet, you clear the floor first, so that you can walk up to the closet rods and stand there without having things be in your way. And so you need to do this in large spaces too. Then work in sections. So I actually Zoom supported somebody while they worked on a garage this way, and we worked. We took the garage and divided it into quarters, and every time we met, we worked on one quarter of it. And so you don't have to do the whole thing. You can go and work in this section or this shelf or that wall or whatever. Pick your Pick your area of focus, pick the section you're going to work on today, and just stay there and work there today. Eventually, you will section yourself around the entire space. Then, in order to manage this project, you need to schedule appointments for yourself because there's going to be a whole bunch of rounds to clear this space. And so, setting up several appointments to say, okay, I'm going to do this in 8 sections, or I think I'm going to do the heavy trash, and I'm going to do the furniture, and I'm going to do the chemicals, and then I'm going to do 2 halves of figure out what stages you want to break it up into and make appointments for all those stages so that you have an idea of how much time you're going to have to spend to work on it. And of course, it's adjustable, but when you start, do some evaluation, decide how many appointments you need, and go and book them for yourself so that you can. There's some incentive for you to keep going, and then stick to the plan. And eventually, you will wind up at the end. I have cleared out many a garage, many attics. One of the attics I cleared out, we hired a bagster. Like I put a bagster out on the driveway, and it was a 2-car garage with an attic above it, and they had put all of the kids' toys up there, and the whole attic area up there was stuffed. And I spent the day hauling all the stuff down this, crumbling things covered in bug, like down the stairs and into the bagster. And so it was real. It was literally a pass it in front of the client. Yes, that needs to be trashed. It's ruined, into the bagster so it could be hauled off for trash. And that was the day's work. And, there wasn't that much that they saved, and the rest of it was all, it's got to go. They were doing it under the impetus of moving. They were about to move, and so they had to
Mm-hmm.
do it. But stuff's been up there for 20 years. So it was, there's always projects like that. Everybody has to face projects like that. And so we did it. That particular one, we did the attic of the garage, and it was an all day affair for me with them. And then we had to do the rest of the garage another time. But all of these spaces are large, and they all require more than one day, and they all require physical work. And so you have to schedule appointments around that based on how much time you have and how much you can stay focused on it and how much physical capacity you have. Just like we always talk about how you do appointments. And, a large space is no different. It just requires more appointments, and it has more specialty processing in there.
Well, and Deborah shared a comment that kind of highlights the importance of planning the project. She says, the cellar in my new place is chock-a-block with crap. Dead paint buckets, broken stuff, etc. I have put a chandelier I want to keep in there and a few wooden shelves I removed and will replace when I leave.
Mm,
Problem, the trash in there, which I inherited from the owner, has to go to special recycling, and I don't have a car to take it all there. It's one of my summer projects. Lovely landlady will be delighted that I want to get rid of the crap.
right. And it's worth the, get renting. Well, I guess you're not in the United States.
Right, she's
So
in
in the
Vienna.
United States, I would, so this is why you rent a U-Haul, right? You rent a U-Haul pickup truck or a small truck in order to haul stuff off. And, for $20 a day. I don't know what the European equivalent is, but I'm sure there's a way to rent a car, a truck, a van, and be able to put stuff in there and haul it off. And and it'll, you will have the great satisfaction of you can walk in there later when you're done, and you will like it so much better. So worth the effort.
Okay, let's go on
Okay.
to the third question we wanted to tackle. This one we're calling Turn the Ship Around. Audience member Sylvie asked, I used to be so organized and have recently regressed to being a pack rat and chaotic. How do I turn the ship around?
First, let me say, when someone who's been organized and regresses to being less so, it's usually a sign of stress or overwhelm. When you can't manage what you were previously managing, it shows that your energy is being diverted to something else that needs attention in your life. Because of that, the first thing I'd ask myself is, what has happened that is causing new additional stress in my life? What emotional triggers am I dealing with right now that are new or have gotten significantly worse than normal? Those new stress levels are diverting your energy away from organizing your life and into dealing with the new stress. So, if you want to turn the ship around, in air quotes, as you say, you need to find out and manage the new stress triggers. After you've begun to address what's bothering you, you can take up your familiar organizing routines again. Also, while you're working on processing the new trinkers, you can consciously pick back up one or two of your normal organizing routines. Maybe focus on cleaning up a backlog of dishes in the kitchen or opening and dealing with the mail. You may not be able to resume all of your old habits right now while you're processing what's in your way, but you can encourage yourself to pick up one or two again. We all know that life happens and sometimes circumstances get in the way of managing your space, and that's okay and typical and expected. So don't give yourself a harsh time about it. And if you drop the ball, it's okay. Instead, notice it for what it is, a season where something else is using your mental and emotional resources. So organizing has to take a step back. It's not a permanent change, especially if you're actively trying to help yourself deal with what's stealing your peace. The thing about organizing is you can always get back to it. You can always restart those habits anytime you're ready. It's a process that you can always pick back up where you left off. So focus on what's bothering you now and know you will go back to it when you're able, and no penalties assessed for late arrival. It's not, there's no police going, but you haven't been doing it all along. Like, yeah, I've been busy. There's no point in, beating yourself about the head and shoulders. And so just know that you can circle back and deal with it. And that what you're experiencing right now is there is something that is taking all your time and energy, and it needs, in order for you to have energy to do organizing, you need to address what's getting in your way right now.
Well, and Sylvie says I have recently regressed, and
Hmm.
so another thought I had was examine what changed in your life. Was there a disruption? A lot of times it's
Hmm.
an instant or event, or the holidays were particularly difficult,
You had
or
a loss.
you
You
had a
lost your
loss.
job. Somebody
You
passed away.
Yeah, you inherited a bunch of stuff, or
Hmm.
um, maybe you lost a job or changed jobs. There are all kinds of reasons that people regress from their productive habits.
100%.
And I think, job number one is be gentle with yourself.
Hmm.
And I also had the thought about suggesting like visualization exercise.
Mm,
Think about the time when you had things more under control. I'm putting that in air quotes.
you're right.
And what was different between then and now? You're older, you may not have as much physical capacity, and so part of what you may need to do is adjust your expectations a little bit.
Hmm.
Lower your standards
For the speed at
to
which you
to
manage,
to
or
get
the,
to get closer to what you're able to accomplish right now.
yeah,
Simplify your life, in any way possible, so that getting back to what you consider organized isn't as much of a slog, you know?
and somebody mentioned this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but the idea that you have a energy resource level, and what you can do now is not what you could do 20 years ago. And so creating your environment, dialing your environment down to the level that you can manage is an adjustment that we all have to make over time. So if you don't dial it down to what you can manage, then you end up backing up and getting overwhelmed. And so aside from having to physically downsize into a new space, you sometimes have to right size the volumes of things that you own, and the stuff that you have to manage to something that is, it requires less time and less effort than it once did. And doing
Yeah,
that to match your physical capacity is one of the adjustments we make in life.
right. Make the if you can shift yourself to a smaller ship, it'll be easier to turn it around.
Yes. Yes, that's a good way. There you go.
Okay, let's go on to question 4, which we called Now or Later. This was from an anonymous audience member who asked, when you know you don't like something or don't want it, should you wait a bit to toss it?
So when I am actually with a client and this is the question that I get, the answer is hell no, you shouldn't wait. If you know that you don't like something and you don't want it, out the door it goes. Like, what is the decision that needs to be made here? You've already declared it. You don't want it. You don't, we're not going to use it, whatever. And so to me, it's like this is your pivot moment where you get it off of your plate, you get it out of your space, you get it away from you so that you no longer have to think about it for another second. And if there's hesitation, if you say you don't want it, but then the idea of releasing it gives you pause, then maybe you need a little cooling off period. Maybe you need to go park in a parking space. Like, take it out of where it's been sitting all this time, because you're used to it being part of the landscape where it is. So if you declare that you don't want it, I would extract it from that space that you're used to seeing it and relocate it somewhere else. So maybe it's that you put it in a box or a bag to go to donation, and you go put it in the garage without actually going to donation yet. And you live with the fact that that space is now empty where you removed the thing. And you can, check in with yourself in a week or 2 weeks and see how you feel about it now that you're used to it not being there and you haven't thought about it for 2 weeks. And then it's like, oh, yeah, I can let go of that. So I would say if you're very firm that you don't like it and you don't want it, then I would say, no, you don't need to wait. Don't let it go. If you're not firm when you say that, when you hesitate and think, I don't want that, but, and you have a little but moment, I would say, go ahead and remove it as if you were going to get rid of it and go put it somewhere new, out of the way, in the corner, in the garage, make it go part of the way out of the house, and it can still sit in the garage and wait while you think about it. And if a couple weeks go by and you find yourself, oh, I forgot about that thing. Oh, I really haven't needed it after all. Oh, I don't know what my hesitation was. Then you can let it go. And if during that 2 weeks you go and shop it back and put it back up, okay, then apparently you weren't ready to let go of that one and you can move on to something else. But I think it's, yeah, if you answer those questions, if I'm asking questions of a client, do you like this? Are you using this? Is this something that somebody in the house is using? And the answer is no and no and no. Then I'm looking at you like, well,
What are we
then
doing?
let's get it out. Like, can I put it and donate?
I, I'm reading a subtext into this question that I
Mm,
think is, um, I don't trust my decision making,
hmm.
you know?
I could see that.
And so some advice there might be, um, do what we suggested and create an algorithm for yourself. Write down a simple list of rules. For me to keep something, it has to be A, B, or C,
Hmm.
and refine that as much as you can, so you feel more confident about the decisions you make on that basis. I
Yeah.
don't like it. I don't use it. It takes up too much room. I have to clean it once a month. If these could be some of your criteria, and if it
I'm getting
meets,
annoyed by it.
yeah, every time I look at it, it makes me angry. If it meets, you make your own rules. It's your
Yeah, yeah,
house, they're your rules. You can say these are my 5 rules, and if it violates any of these rules, it's got to go. Or
yeah.
maybe you're stricter and it has to violate all the rules.
Before it goes.
But you the other thing is the more decisions you make, the better you will be at decision making,
Yes, yes, yes.
right?
And I think that's also, you have to, like, I'm suggesting that you give it, you park it in a temporary space while you adjust mentally to its absence or potential loss. And if you do that part of the process and never circle back and do it the rest of the way, either to bring it back in the house or to take it to donation, then you're just transferring your clutter to the garage, which is not what I'm advocating.
Right.
Because then you'll just have to clean it out of the garage later. So we're not trying to move it to the garage so it can stay and die in the garage. We want to actually make a decision about it, and we just want to give you a minute to be comfortable with the decision that you've made about I took it off the wall, I took it out of the closet, I took it off of the bookshelf, and I'm going to release, I took it out of the cabinet, I'm going to release it, and I need to make sure that I'm comfortable with that before I let it go. And so it needs to be temporary, and there needs to be a secondary step of you go back out to the stuff in the garage and look at it and go, am I ready to put it in the car now? Am I ready to make the donation happen and make the stuff disappear? And those two things are your way to hesitate for a minute and then finally make a decision that you can live with. And so you got to do both. Just saying.
Right. Um, Pat suggests put it in a black bag for donations and date the bag of when to go away, no more than one
Mm,
month.
that's a good idea. That's a possible plan. I like that it's in the black bag so that you can't see it anymore.
Right,
That's a good thing. And particularly if you're doing this around small children, you don't want the little kids to see the stuff that you've declared it's time for them to go, and then they go shop the bag for you. You don't want a 4 year old or 6 year old in a bag pulling everything back out again. So
right.
moving that on its way is a good idea.
Ginger says, I have a list of things on a goodbye tour in my mind.
Ah,
Things fall off the list and go away.
there
Arm's
you
length
go.
perspective helps me.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and the idea that you contemplate their removal before you actually remove them by putting them on the list, I think is interesting. That's a good like pause and reflect mechanism that you built there. So good job.
Here's a comment from JB who says, I can relate. After my mother and cat passed in the past year or so, the house went
Mm,
downhill,
yeah,
also battling chronic fatigue syndrome. And the irony is that the appearance of your environment only compounds the stress and overwhelm.
it's
In,
so true.
in the past week, I've had to tidy for maintenance people to come in and other reasons, and it has helped my attitude so much to see what it can become. We need visible wins, and I'm enjoying creating small cleared spaces and moving furniture around so I can see a difference, even a small one. We have to physically see the promise to reacquaint ourselves with our capacity and trust our capabilities again. Live in hope and movement again.
There
Great
you go.
advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And 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 grief is something that destroys people temporarily. Like and particularly when you're dealing with the loss of your parents, those of us that have lived that episode can tell you how debilitating it is because it is such a major mental readjustment of this person was in my life for my entire life and is no longer in my life. And that adjustment requires a lot of energy and mental rearranging. And so, I would say don't give yourself a hard time for doing it. Doesn't sound like you are, which is great. And it's been a year and you may need another year to fully integrate the loss of your parent but and the loss of your cat, but it is something that is improving slowly over time. And if you're able, now the year has gone by and you're able to clear small spaces and make small wins for yourself to remind yourself that you still have the capacity, then it seems like you're doing self-care for yourself in that way and starting to recognize that you are slowly coming out of it and able to divert some of your attention back to clearing out a space. And so
Well,
good for you.
and since we're talking about the turn the ship around topic, the
Mm,
how do I get back after a regression? I think it's also important to remember that you when you were organized before, you had to learn skills to become organized. And those skills, you
yeah,
still have them.
yeah.
They may be out of practice. They may be a little
Asleep for a
a
moment.
little rusty, they may need limbering up, but you have those skills. So just like when you go back to an exercise regimen after having to take some time off for an injury, for example, your body will remember,
Hmm.
and so, you're organizing your organizing capacities will remember what you learned before.
Right? And you're right about
It
that
may feel
whole,
clumsy or awkward at the start as you're
yeah.
resuming good productive habits, but you'll get there.
And it's the whole, it, it's the definition of fake it till you make it, right? Like you're doing a little bit and to remind yourself and you're getting an action. And sometimes we just need to get an action instead of sitting there and thinking, I should be organizing. You've managed to get yourself in action and do a little bit of organizing, clear little spaces, rearrange furniture. You said you've done some movement so that you can see that you are actively able to do something and you're taking the dopamine hit from accomplishing that, which is great. So good for you. And it sounds like you're doing great self-care right now.
May says, I went to drop off location and they had closed 10 minutes earlier. Was this a sign to keep? It's still in the trunk of my car.
Yeah, I would say no, it wasn't a sign to keep. It was a sign you didn't get out of the house on time. That's all. And you can maybe you were hesitating about letting it go, but you can drive around with it in the trunk for another week and try again. And you can still release it later.
Let's see. Let's see what we got left. M says, note to parents to let the child learn decision-making skills. My mother decluttered our stuff without our input, so I never learned how to decide what not to keep.
Yeah, and I'm sure she was trying to manage, but she was also kind of taking agency away a little bit from you too. So, yeah, you, having those questions, like talking through those questions with a kid, they may not be able to take on board all you're selling by doing that, but they will learn that there's a process of asking questions that if you keep doing it with them, they will eventually be able to do it themselves. And this is one of the things I hear back from clients a lot is that after they work with me and I spend a bunch of time saying, you know, are you into this? How are you using it? Like they take the questions that I ask and they integrate them into questions of their own. It's sort of like they have me in their head at some point, and I start asking the questions in their head about what to do with the stuff. And so you will eventually teach little kids by continuously asking them those questions, whether they can give you good responses or not, or whether you feel comfortable with the responses that they give you. At least the process of teaching them that you can evaluate something and ask questions and make a decision to release is a lesson that is a good thing to teach somebody.
Well, and little kids are going to start with very reflexive responses. Like they're going to, yes, I love all, yes, I
I
play
love
with,
also all the
yes, I
stuffed
love this, I
animals.
play with
Yeah.
it, yes. But
Yeah.
even little kids will start to recognize the absurdity after they've said, yes, 10 times in a row. And then you might be able to use the angle of humor, you know, to get in there and say, really though? Really? I mean, I haven't seen you play with this one. Like this one I had to dig out from under the couch, you
Right.
know.
And don't you have favorites that you like better? And yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not 100% win game with little kids, but it's repetition and training. And so there you go.
All right, we are just about out of time. So I'm going to remind everyone we'll be back next week on Tuesday, June 9th at the usual time. And we're giving you the clutter and emotions topic that we promised you last week and then didn't deliver today. And this one we're calling While You Declutter, Don't Forget to Leave Space for Yourself. And you can tune in next week to find out exactly what we mean by that. Gail, why don't you give us the tittle?
Okay, the weekly tittle is Keeping Pace. This week's assignment is to examine an area of your life or your home in which accumulation outpaces your ability to declutter. Identify a part of your life, a habit, routine, hobby, pastime, chore, etc., in which new stuff coming into your home tends to accumulate more quickly than you're able to eliminate clutter. And here's some examples. Magazines that are arriving in the mailbox much faster than you can keep up with reading them. Or you shop for new items for your wardrobe, but you rarely take the time to free up closet space. You continue to snip and collect recipes, even though you only ever tried a handful of them. You buy collectibles estate sales intending to resell them on eBay, and now your inventory is out of control. Reflect on the disparity between your rate of accumulation and the work or play that would be required to dispose of the excess stuff in this area of your life. And answer these questions. Are you willing to increase your effort to get ahead of clutter in this aspect of your life? If not, what mindset shift might help you bring the incoming stuff under better control? And what changes in your behavior might stem the tide of accumulation? Just a thinking exercise for you at this point.
Right? No actual hard work.
No,
Just think
just
about stuff.
contemplation. And so contemplate and then come back and tell us about it next week.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We'd love to hear from our audience, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
That's where you can find us and find a link to everywhere else. I'm going to throw up the YouTube thing, clutterfreehouston.com, cfhou.com/YouTube. It's a way to find all of our other videos out there. You know, there's a million. All right. Thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate you, and we will be back next week. See you
Bye-bye.
later. Bye.